Welcome to Traders Chat. I'm Chart Gal Lori, and I'm sitting down with chart guy Lamont. Hi, Lamont.
Hey Lori, how are you?
I'm doing great. We work together in the room. I know him very well, but I think he provides interesting insights, and his vocabulary is huge, and he's very articulate. So I think he can just lend some insights to what it takes to become a consistently profitable trader. So thank you for sitting down with me, and tell them a little bit about what you do at Chart Guys.
Oh gosh, what don't I do, right? I'm
Exactly.
pretty much Jason's right hand, right?
Yes.
Pretty much. Don't ask me about how I spend my nights, right? I do a little bit of everything there, right? So I definitely handle all of the CS stuff. I create some content. Hopefully we can put out some more content in the future. And I guess we just bounce ideas off of each other in general, like business development ideas in general. And then of course I will occasionally, I'm the backup, right? I'm the backup streamer on occasion. And I do the TA Q&A calls pretty regularly, pretty much all the time. Yeah, it's pretty much just me. It's pretty much Jason asking a question, and then I'll just kind of jump on it, and then I hijack the entire conversation. Yeah, and then of course, general just membership, right? I try to keep the swing trading channel alive because it's a little sleepy in there, right?
Yeah.
Despite the fact that we always get a lot of feedback regarding wanting more
Swing trading.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what I do for the chart guys.
And the swing report.
And there's a swing report. That's right, of course. That's right. I forget. Yes. I also, of course, a contributor to the swing report. Yes, which I very much enjoy the project. It's it's educational, right? Because I don't normally concern myself too much with fundamental matters, but the more that I do the copy for that, the more that I realize actually that there are not necessarily that the fundamentals are incredibly important. Obviously, we're technical traders, so we care far more about the technical circumstances. But there are some things, like it's good to know what you trade, for example, right? Like there are a lot of people trying to short oil, right? And that's fine. Like from a technical perspective, I can see these small extensions, and if you have areas of balance, then maybe you want to come in and play those areas short term. But the fundamental backdrop is there's a lot of bullish pressure, right? From just because of the fundamental value, we have energy crunch, right?
Inflationary concerns too. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Right. So I think it's good to know what you're trading at least somewhat. And I trade the S&Ps a lot, so it's pretty. I think it's good to have all that stuff in the back of your mind. Know what the market is focused on, right? What kind of news the market is focused on. Not necessarily because that is really what impacts the market, but that is certainly will have an influence on it, right? And how it impacts the market can also be very telling, right? Like if bullish news is not perceived bullish anymore in the market, that probably suggests underlying weakness.
Yeah,
right?
when good news is bad news.
And
bad news is really bad news, and we have to know that. So how'd you get into trading?
Well, crypto trading was probably it's a tale as old as time, right? If you're a relatively younger trader, I feel like most people entered the market. Like if you've been around for a few years, you probably were exposed to crypto in some way. So for me personally, I'm a bit of I'm not really a super tech master or anything like that, but I enjoy technology. And when I heard about Ethereum, I was very interested because essentially it could be what I think it could be is the next internet protocol, right? It could be the new TCP/IP. And I think that a decentralized internet could be built on this kind of a network. Will it happen? I have no idea. But the potential is certainly there. So I drank the Kool-Aid, I bought some Ethereum. It was like 30 or 40 bucks on the first purchase. And then of course we all know what happened. They started ripping it. I believe on the first run it went up to like 12 or 1400. And so Ethereum was actually my first cryptocurrency. I hadn't even heard about Bitcoin, funnily enough, when I heard about Ethereum. And so eventually I learned about Bitcoin, and then I gained some exposure in there as well. I think that was after the first major correction that ETH saw. And from there, it was really, after the top, I continued to expect trading performance to be the same, right? And I didn't realize how much the environment was saving me, right? How much the market was correcting my errors, right? I had no idea. I thought it was a brilliant person.
Of course. That's how we all started. Absolutely. Of course.
Yes. So I lost like 30% of that, swiftly. So 30% of all the gains that I had seen, and very, very swiftly, probably in a period of 3 months. And I think that is when I first started realizing that, okay, certainly there's promise here, there's potential here, but at the same time, you probably need some more structure, which has
Right.
been, that's been my MO my entire life. It always used to drive my father crazy, right? He would say, "Oh, you have all this, talent, gifts, or whatever, but you are so distracted all the time. You can't focus on a thing. You're doing this, you're doing that, and that's very true. I would be doing my homework, watching cartoons, and trying to draw at the same time when I was younger, and I would just go from one to one to one as a kid. So that was pretty much it. And then after realizing that, okay, well, I have to definitely put some structure to this. Eventually, I found my way to Chartbacks. I think it was from Reddit. I don't even
Interesting.
remember because it feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah,
Like
I
when you
know.
think about when you first started, right?
Yeah, we've been together forever. I can't believe I've only known you a few years, and but
Yeah.
that's what it's like when you're in a community that feels like family. So
100%. It's almost like another like person, right? Because I look back at my mentality then, my mindset then, what I thought operating in the markets was, and it's like seriously like night and day.
yeah,
And I still consider myself a greenhorn. I still consider myself very, very new to this game. I expect to do this for decades.
yeah,
So, it gives you an idea, I think, of like how steep the learning curve can be right away in the middle, right? I think, I'm under 5 years here. And it's like, seriously like night and day. The amount of knowledge at this point now, looking back, I think I was a fool. I really think I was a
right.
fool back then.
And I can see 5 years from now, I'll be looking at today's Lori and saying, "What were you thinking?" Even though I'm a consistently profitable trader, but just see how knowledge just compounds, and that you have to grow. And with that growth, I look forward to where I'll be in 5 years and 10 years, and that's why I love this occupation, because you never learn it all, and it's my favorite part of it. So, what is your favorite broker? Like, what is your favorite trading platform or broker?
Oh man, I really liked FTX for like the month or so that I had access to it. I was
Mm.
a latecomer to the FTX train, right? And then like practically right afterwards, they upped their KYC, right? So,
Yeah,
so
what are we supposed to do? FTX is the best broker. Every broker in America could take so many lessons from FTX. But
sure.
for stocks, which and futures, what do you use?
For futures, I use TOS, but honestly, I don't think
And that
any.
means Thinkorswim for anyone
Yes,
who, sorry.
Thinkorswim, right? TD Ameritrade's Thinkorswim. I like TOS simply because it's not as intuitive as like a Fidelity. Fidelity, their platform is much more straightforward. I feel like you open a window for every single order or every single kind of function. So it's not as intuitive, but the features are pretty robust, right? I love the
Way
fact.
more powerful in my opinion to Fidelity, but definitely not as intuitive. I completely agree.
Right, right. So I like TOS, but you know what? It's funny. The reason why I moved to TOS originally, primarily, was so that I can like trade on the chart, moving those levels, right? And I
Hmm.
really never used that. I practically never used that. I thought
What
it
do
would be
you
so much
use?
cooler.
I use
Um,
Active Trader.
Actually, rarely. I do use that sometimes
Wow.
to compose the complex orders, right? Because you can just click them in.
Yeah.
But normally, I just have a bunch of like templates saved for order types. Like one triggers an OCO, for example, is
Okay.
probably my primary order, where I'll like use multiple, like probably six of those, right? Well, I'll
Yeah.
have two one triggers and OCOs per fill level. Usually, I have
Wow.
I like to do it. I draw my date and price range box. Usually, I'm coming in at the top, the middle, and the bottom, unless there's a little bit of bounce, and I might adjust those levels lower. But either way, each one of those fills, typically I'll use two one triggers and OCO because one fill, I'll trigger it, the stop loss is down there, and then the two targets are different. Where I'll
Right.
have a much closer target on half of that order because I'm always looking to de-risk as soon as possible whenever I'm exposed to the market. Right? I don't look at the market from the sense of, okay, how much money can I make? I look at the market in the sense of how defensive can I be, right? How
Right.
safe can I be in the market? Because if I'm in the market and I'm safe, that means someone else is taking damage.
And so, and when you say de-risk, I just want to make sure the viewer understands. Are you saying get to break even as fast as possible? Put your stop to where you won't lose. Is that correct?
Essentially,
Yeah,
right? Essentially,
essentially.
even if I'm looking for those bids lower, I still want to take some risk off, right? I still want to lower
Yeah.
my cost basis on this trade. So even if I'm interested in fills lower, I will still take a chop on the bid if it's reasonable, right? A good dollar amount. Primarily if it has retested, right, a prior low. Right, because I don't anticipate that prior low or that prior high, whatever area, whatever structure I'm looking at to the left, I don't anticipate price to rip right through it. So I'm always going to chop somewhere before that test, right? Assuming it's not going to occur, I'll de-risk, lower my cost basis, and then we'll go from
You
there and
want
see
to
how it goes.
talk about assumptions? I assume that people don't use the word chop often, and I'm probably the one that's in the minority. But when he says chop, he means sell a scale, exit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're
Sorry.
fine. I'm
Yeah.
probably the one in the minority because I am definitely a different age bracket. What's your favorite indicator?
Gosh, my favorite indicator, it would have to really just be volume, right? Volume, because a lot of traders use just price, and of course, everyone knows price is king, and I can largely agree with that. But I think if price is king, then volume is like it's people, right? The
Mm-hmm.
people, the populace, and the people can certainly oust a ruler, right? A king, because if there's not volume to support price, then price is going to collapse and come back into where their volume was, right? So I like to trade value, right? It's a market profile perspective, right? Where you look at where the bulk of volume is traded, that's where the value was established, and so that is what lets me know that if I have extension into this high value area where a ton of volume has been traded before, there's very good chance that we're going to at least see some kind of relief rally, and that can allow me to position off.
And
So I would say volume.
I'll just clarify. So most traders use price and volume on the x-axis, if you will, and you put volume on the y-axis. Is that right? X and y.
Correct.
So you want to know where the volume is going off, not just how much, because if it's under, I guess if it's under price, you know where it's happening. But it when you see that intersection on the east-west side, it really does help visually. So I know you rely on that, especially with futures trading. You're looking for volume shelves. You're looking for where are those big blocks where price will pause either to the upside or to the downside. So
Absolutely.
what is the most valuable trait that you think traders need to be successful?
I think probably creativity, right? Creativity, I would say, is probably the most important thing. A lot of people, I think, enter the markets and they're looking for some kind of where do I enter? Where do I exit? A very mechanical style approach to trading. And I just don't think that this is a very good way to operate. I don't think most independent discretionary traders have the quote unquote gifts, as Dr. Steenbarger would call it, to the analytical gifts, right, to create these kind of black box systems. And even if you were to be able to successfully do this, the market is always changing. And so eventually it'll be phased out. You have to update it as well, which then would demand that you have this understanding, right? So you have to be creative. Whether or not you're a mechanical trader, it demands creativity. Trading is synthesis, right? You take in a lot of information from all these different places. You know better than anybody else, right? You are like manic almost when it comes to information gathering, right? The amount of content that you are sharing regularly, right? Not just trade setups, but news implications, right? Economic reports, right? The pick closes, all this. You're constantly synthesizing this information, right? Not just the technicals, but also all this stuff around it, right? And you're also, likely synthesizing stuff in your own life, right? How good do I feel right now? Am I sharp? Am I fed? Am I nourished? Am I hydrated? Right? This is all. It all must comes together. It has to coalesce. In order for you to get flow.
I have to dovetail on that. I've never thought about that till right when you said all the information gathering that I do. It's my nature. I'm a sponge. I need information. And in my prior life in healthcare, I used to call it environmental scanning, and I did it every day. I would scrub Medicare websites, Blue Cross Blue Shield, CPT codes, and I would look and say, oh, we got a change coming up in these codes, so we're going to have to change the way we do this process in the medical facility in order to take advantage of these new regulatory changes or to hedge against it. And I was constantly grabbing all the news, and that's how I got my edge in healthcare. I was an environmental scanner, and I've never looked at the corollary. That's what I do now. So it's interesting. I'm not saying I'm great at it, people. I'm just saying it's just how I like to operate.
I'm saying you're great at it.
Well, you're kind.
You must have misunderstood me.
No. I was just trying to make sure that the listener knew that I'm not saying I'm so great at this. I'm just saying it's definitely my MO, if you will.
I'm going to say you are really great. It's honestly very impressive to me because it's not really how I operate, right? That's a lot of new stuff. I am the kind of person that I would distract myself with all of that different stuff, but I see you make it work so well, and that you are able to present meaningful information, right? That's actionable. There are times when I do act on your information. It's just not really my MO because I find that I'm a bit overconfident at times, and that can get me into trouble.
Yeah.
Right? So I know I need to trade my trade,
right,
and not really anyone else's trade. I need to make sure I'm focused on my trade.
What is your What is your
Sorry?
trade? What is your favorite trade style? Day
My favorite
trading,
trade.
day
Oh, sorry.
trading, swing trading.
I like the sway trading, right? A Charkel Lori special, right? A coin term. I like sway trading because what Dalton would say, right? James Dalton, a very excellent market profile trader, what he would say is that everybody is a day trader, right? On the day that they initiate, and I think that's absolutely true, and that's for sure how I approach the markets because
Right,
my strength, historically speaking, has actually been in the longer term stuff. The swing trading stuff, even the short term swing trade is kind of my bread and butter, right? The
right.
1 to 5 day operation. That's what I'm
Mine
most
too.
comfortable. Yeah, right. That's what I'm most comfortable sharing too, like in the swing trade, because I take relatively straightforward trade setups in this regard because I want these trades to be low management. I don't want to have to worry about them too much. I want to position, I want to chop it up, protect it, and then just see where it can mature. And that's why you see me lately. A lot of my trades are looking for monthly, quarterly, yearly breakouts, yearly higher lows, these kinds of things. Because I want to park my capital in there, and then ideally I can sell calls against my position
Right,
or even ratios, right? Like if I
right.
initiate with like a synthetic covered call, right, and then I can adapt that to ratios later as we move along, then great. And then I can collect that premium to cover
Right.
the call, essentially the cost of the call, right?
And
So
I do think this sway trading is our sweet spot right now. We don't talk about how it's our sweet spot a lot, but I think it's because look at the market the last 20 days, the volatility has been insane. And if you try to park something in there and you're going to have to manage those fluctuations or at least the balances, watch your balance go up and down if it doesn't hit the stop. So I think that's why it's a sweet spot right now is we just get those trend weeks, those trend days, take advantage of it and then step off and just let the market bulls and bears have it. What is your number one edge?
I would say that all of my edges are kind of also weaknesses. Because I think that I am a very confident person. I don't do anything unless I never do anything I don't want to, first of all. And so whenever I'm doing a thing, then I have a lot of reasoning behind it, which oftentimes leads me to be overconfident. Now, this overconfidence regarding as a strength is really powerful because when I am just down in the dumps, right? When I am at my worst, for whatever reason, is when that little voice comes up and says, you know you can do this. I don't know
Right.
why you're beating yourself up.
Yeah.
You know you can do this. You already know your mistakes, right? So I think that's probably key. I really believe in myself, and I think that you have to visualize these things, right? You look at any kind of champion, right? Any elite performer, and they don't wake up and think they're trash. They wake up and they think I am the best, and if I'm not the best, then I'm going to do whatever I can to get closer to being the best. And I would say that that's probably my most powerful edge. However, this overconfidence very often can manifest in the market as being coming in too early. And so knowing that, I usually, well, almost always, I will take that into account, right? Because the way that I see it is, if you know you have this kind of flaw or shortcoming, there are two ways you can address it. You can fix the shortcoming, absolutely, which is pretty unlikely to happen, at least overnight, right? Or you can put contingencies in place, right? Like if you
Right.
trip a lot, you don't have to just stop tripping. You can put a helmet on, and then live your life
So you put
somewhat
a
awkwardly. Sorry.
so you put knee pads, arm pads, and helmets on, even because you know you're gonna trip.
Exactly. Before I boot this computer up, before I start the broker, I put my helmet on. Make sure I'm
You
not
just
tripping
gave me a
myself up.
visual. I love that. How many hours? I didn't let you know these questions. We talked about some of the questions, but some of them I thought of later. So, how many hours do you think you spent studying before you became consistently profitable?
Wow, what a phenomenal question. Yes, I talk about this all the time with people who are trying to come up, right? And I reference this all the time, right? We know roughly about how long it takes to master something, right? How much active engagement it takes, about 10,000 hours,
Right.
right? And we have known this for hundreds of years because even if not explicitly, we knew it intuitively. Because if you look at apprenticeships, right, you want to be a blacksmith in medieval times, right? What do? You go live with a blacksmith. You
Right.
do 8 to 10 hour days for 7 to 10 years. You do the math, and that works out to be right around 10,000 hours. And so I think people are typically become relatively adept at something around 3,000, 4,000 hours. And so I would say that's about right. I was putting in like 10 to 12 hour days, 6 to 7 days a week for probably the first 2 years straight, like a madman, like you said, sponge, right? Reading these
Right.
textbooks. following all these people, taking all these courses, trying to synthesize some kind of market understanding, right? So yeah, I would say probably around 3 to 4 thousand hours in of
Right.
active engagement was probably when I started feeling like, okay, I think I've got a good flow going here.
I knew to add that question because I actually shared with you my son's interested in trading, and I wanted to express to him how many hours, and I'm like, he needs to talk to a trader that's not his mama so he can see that it's a lot of work and you got to be willing to do that. What is your workflow? I'm sorry,
My work.
my dog is right here. I'm petting her. She needs attention.
Assistant.
Your
It's
brother
all
says
good.
hello.
My workflow is pretty standard for the morning routine at least. I have a pretty. It's kind of funny. I talk about this sometimes too. I used to wake up so late. I used because I my other business, which I'm not really terribly a part of now. I still have to get a retainer, but I don't do much work for them. Either way, but it's an after school, right? We do test prep and subject enrichment and whatnot. And so very often I could wake up at 1, 2 p.m. and then roll into work, and that was totally fine. No problem. Then I work from like 2 to 6 or 7 or 8, and then I'm off for the night. And so that's how my life used to be. And I thought that trading was going to give me freedom, right? That I could wake up whenever I want and be traveling all the time, ride my motorcycle all over the world, and I could
Sucker.
just
No,
do
I'm
what I want. But
kidding.
absolutely not, right? It demands a lot of discipline,
Hmm.
right? So for me personally, I wake up somewhere between 6:30, 6:45, and then I will meditate. I have a very, very specific meditation process. It's 15 minutes. I cut it up into 5 pieces each. One is breathing and body work. One 5 minute section is mental work, right? I'm trying to monitor my mind through mantric meditation. And then the final part is like kind of visualization, gratitude, whatever. So I always start off my day with this 15-minute meditation. Then I walk my dog. She's not there. She's usually there. And then I walk my dog. That's usually about 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes. And I will almost always do an audiobook while I'm doing that, unless, oh, by the way, I just finished that Goggins book, and that ending was phenomenal.
Wonderful.
But yeah, I almost always do the audiobook unless then I don't feel good. If I'm not feeling it, right, then I don't feel like I'm primed to learn, then I would just try to chill out, do the walk, whatever. And then I come back, I make coffee for myself, I make coffee for my wife, make sure it's in the cans and stuff so that, it's ready when she wakes up and does her yoga and whatnot. And then I start the day. And for regarding the trading stuff, the first thing that I do, because I trade the S&Ps very often, is I will make sure that on my whiteboard over there, right, I want to make sure that where is the open? Are we going to open up within balance of the overnight session? Are we going to open up within yesterday's range? And are we going to open up within yesterday's value? Right? Because if we are in those areas, I know there's no early trade. I can like kind of be chill in the morning probably because the early trade is usually a fade, right? It's
Right.
usually a fade. If there's shock and awe, you're either fading that move or it's a gap and go kind of situation, and you have to get it, right? You have
Right.
to, and you'll know right away because how the opening drive plays out for the most part gives you a lot of indication. Right?
Yep.
Are we passing over the open multiple times? Right? Are we coming back to a very nuanced level from the prior day and then ripping from there? It's very, very indicative, right? If you have these reference points, and then you can ask yourself, well, how well are the bulls or bears getting to these reference points? And that gives you a really good indication of, who's in control of the market. So that's pretty much it. Then after that, I, get to just regular day stuff, and then I'll go through the watch list of names that I watch for the swing trade channel. I take those trades all the time as well. And then I'll scroll. I have a watch list for all of my accounts. I operate 5 accounts, and it's 2 IRAs for me, my wife and I, and then my Korean mom's account, which is my mother-in-law, as you know, and then we also have 2 swing trade accounts where like I'm most wildly speculative in my account. I wouldn't say wildly, but I'm most speculative in my account, and then with my wife's account, it's more of like a slow and steady kind of swing trade. I would call it intermediate term. I play the weekly, the monthly very often. And that's pretty much how I operate.
Are you a natural bull or bear?
Ooh, oh gosh, I guess I'm a bull, right? I guess I'm a bull. I just I find it to be. I mean, again, I trade the S&P, so they rebalance that thing to be as bullish as possible, So if I gotta go with the flow, right?
Right, yeah.
You go. So I would say natural bull. I would say.
How many names do you monitor during the day?
Yes. That can be anywhere of upwards of 2 dozen. Because again, 5 accounts, right? So I'm
Right.
going to check in on all of these tickers every day, at least, right? I know I have alerts set up, and I know in general what I'm looking at, and my larger monitor to my right here that covers every single asset, right? Everything we have a position in, I have a chart open, ready to go, and I'm just monitoring it regularly. So it's always going to be upwards of 2 dozen, because I also have a couple dozen in the swing trade watch list that I'm always cycling through. I can't get through it every day, to be completely honest, but yeah, I would say upwards of 2 dozen. Although my operations, the volume wise, I mean, today was a good day for NQ. So but typically average trades probably like under 8, right? Probably. So
Okay.
yeah.
So this is another question I thought of that I think we'll keep on the regular rotation. Do you remember the pivotal moment in your trading career, your aha moment? Do you remember that moment and what brought about that? What is the change? I'm trying to think of a word. You're my vocabulary man.
The
Help me.
mindset shift, maybe the paradigm shift, right?
Yes. What
Okay.
was that moment?
Yeah, I think for me, maybe I would say it's probably Tesla. It was probably Tesla, because Tesla had this really huge monthly balance for years, and then it had another monthly balance for years, and then it collapsed from the highs of that monthly balance all the way down to the lows of the lower balance. So you had a balance area, and then a huge dump, like a straight shot down to the lows of this lower balance area. And that was probably the first time that I confidently stepped in front of the train. There was a trade. Oh, you know what? That Roku trade. The Roku trade was actually even better. The Roku trade was the predecessor of this trade, I would say. The Roku trade was the first trade where everybody in the chat room was super bearish on it.
Is that when it hit $55 area and bounced?
I honestly can't even remember.
I think it's $55 now. I want to go look it up.
I think it was a big monthly inside bar, and if it was a 55 low, then I think it was like an 80 something high.
Okay.
And I had a bunch of reasons for looking long here. There was a TD9 had printed, there was a falling wedge, it was likely to be a monthly inside bar. So I had all of these things coming together. I think the monthly 12 EMA was also there. And this was at a time in my trading career when I was just not so sure. And so I was using all these different systems, and I only ever took positions when there was heavy confluence. Right. I still enjoy this, but for the most part now, I can really just trade, I think, price action and volume. But whatever the case, even people in the chat room, were like literally everybody was like, this thing is going to zero. Not zero, but this thing is just falling apart. And that was like a 30% trade for me. And I think that made me realize I have to trade my own trade. Right. And that you need to have a plan. Like that everything was so laid out. Yeah. That it was the most successful trade that I had done up to that point. And I think that was the aha moment.
That's a good one. All right. So we're going to finish the interview, the chat, with this or that.
Okay.
All right. So this or that for the rest of your life. Okay. SPY or Tesla?
I'm married to Tesla in my Korean mom's account. I would trade the S&Ps. Yeah.
Options or commons?
That's so tricky because I feel like I'm relatively new to to options, and I see so much promise in there.
You see the power.
Futures.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think probably commons though, right? It's better for like building portfolios and whatnot.
Pizza or burgers?
Pizza.
Crypto or futures?
Futures.
Futures are powerful, aren't they?
Yeah, and we have crypto futures now, right? So.
Yeah. YouTube or Netflix?
Ooh, I like YouTube. So educational, right? If you know where to look.
TradingView or Toss?
TradingView. I need TradingView.
Motorcycles or Teslas?
Oh my god, I wish they would make one. I wish Tesla would make an electric motorcycle. Oh man, I gotta pick motorcycles.
I knew it. But I know you love your Tesla too.
Yeah, it's a good whip. Not perfect. It's a good whip.
Lamont, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I really appreciate it. You have just got infectious energy that I just can't help but smile every time I talk to you. Thank you for sharing your journey with us.
No, I thank you. I thank you so much. We didn't get into it at all, but huge inspiration for me at my darkest moments. You pointed me in the right direction. I owe you so much. I look up to you. You are incredible. I respect the hustle so much. It's unbelievable. It really, really, really is. I don't know how you put down so much work so
You know
consistently.
you're going to make me cry, so stop it. You're so kind. You're so
Well,
sweet.
we'll just edit that piece out.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you so much for having me. Very much appreciated. I love what you do. And of course, I'll see you around.
All right. Thank you.
All right, no problem.